Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 1847 show. I'm your host, Prince Larmain Jarbo, and on this show, we highlight the ingenuity of Liberians in and out of Liberia with the intent to inspire other changemakers. Thank you for joining us today. We have an exciting segment for you. Before we get started, I want to encourage you and wish you a very, very happy holidays. Thank you for tuning in, and I wish you and your family, your loved ones, I wish you guys all have. And on behalf of the 1847 show, we wish you a very, very happy holidays. Stay tuned. The series Making Money Moves is coming up. This is series 3, lesson 1. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Bosco baby, B to the O, S to the C O, straight out of China. I represent LIB. The song playing in the background is my latest single called Like It or Not. You can find me on social, especially YouTube at Bosco_LIB, and also on Instagram at Bosco_LIB, and also on Facebook at Bus Music. Right now, you're watching the 1847 show. You know it's about you and me and all things Liberian. So follow the 1847 show on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and also on formerly Twitter and now X. So let's go, 2024. See you.
Hello, my name is Grace Choma Baba, founder of Destiny Charity Organization and owner at Genesis Snacks. You are watching the 1847 show. The 1847 show celebrates you, me, and all things Liberian. Follow the 1847 show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. The 1847 show, all things Liberian.
Welcome back. You're watching the 1847 show, and I'm your host, Prince Larmain Jarbo. Today is our segment, Making Money Moves, which is the third series and the first lesson. So with each series comes a new set of topics or lessons. And for this one today, we're talking about budgeting, right? So what is budgeting? Our objective today is to teach you the basics about budgeting. So if you will, you can call it Budgeting 101. And why are we giving you that disclaimer? Because this is not, of course, a university course. I am not a certified financial educator. This is just giving you knowledge that I have acquired over the years on basics budgeting. So let's get started. What is the budgeting that we're talking about? What is a budget? Well, a budget pretty much is a plan that allows you to look into how much you're making and where you're spending it. That's pretty much what it is a guide. So if someone says I'm going to create a budget, is I want to create a roadmap to know how my money is going to come in, how it's going to go out, right? And now this is important because having that roadmap can guide you in other aspects of your life. It helps you avoid debt. Because if you know how much your money is coming in and how it's going out, then you're more careful on how you spend, and you know what you have to, spend money on. So then you avoid, fill into plan pretty much. And it also encourages you to save for things like your education, save for emergencies, save for any other thing, any other financial goal that you might have. And budgeting also give you confidence about your future, right? Because if you're managing your money properly, you can kind of plan and predict how the future is going to look like. Because a part of that plan is going to be you saying, hey, I need to put aside money for emergency funds, right? Money for rainy days. That's budgeting 101. You have to have money for rainy days because life is going to throw stones at you. What are you going to do in those instances? So budgeting overall just gives you peace of mind. And what I personally say is that peace of mind is priceless. You cannot put a price tag on having total peace in your mind. So why wouldn't you want to budget? So this is why we're talking about budgeting today. Now, if this is something that interests you and you have questions or concerns at any point, definitely feel free to leave your comments or engage throughout, and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. But this is a learning series. The Making Money Moves is a learning series. We're trying to educate ourselves so that we can make better financial decisions for not just us, but our children, our family, and most significantly, the motto on the 1847 show is all things Liberian. So all of these actions, we want them to collectively benefit Liberia. That's the main reason, right? So you're not just bettering yourself, you're bettering your entire generation and Liberia. So that should get you excited if it already hasn't. So we've talked about what a budget is, right? It's a plan, a roadmap that you use to understand how your money comes in and how it goes out. And we talk about why it's important. So what is the first step in creating this budget? What is the first step? Well, you first have to determine your income. If you're not working, this is probably not as helpful for you, but you can still use a lot of the information. If you're able to work, even though you're not, you can still use this information once you start working. So the first thing is know your income. And how do you determine this? Is you look at the different streams of ways that money comes into you. So if you're working, you're probably salaried or you have a job that pays you per hour. So that is, more of a stable income. So you have to account for that. Now, most people, especially when I lived in Liberia, we also had other ways that we made money, which was side hustles. So if you have a side hustle where you do contracts for people, you can also account for that in your budget as an income. Another way is remittance, right? If you have someone that lives overseas and they send you money, well, and if it's consistent, right? Keyword here is consistent, not if they send you money once a year. So if they consistently send you money on a monthly basis, weekly basis, you can also account for that as your income. But the biggest thing about all of these income is you have to remember to be conservative, to be very, very much, understanding that the fact that things fluctuate. They can go from, if your income is mostly made out of contracts, well, 1 month you might have a great month where you have a lot of contracts, and then the next month, not so great. So you have to, be conservative in your approach, meaning that you're going to use the most, average of all of those numbers, right? The smallest of all of those numbers, if you will. That's being conservative. Go in with the smallest option possible so that worst case scenario, you know that you're going to be okay. Because you don't want to have a budget and you're still aiming too high and it's unrealistic, because that defeats the purpose. Then your expenses are going to be more than your income. And that's not the idea of a budget. The idea is to set some form of balance consistently. So we are going to determine our income. So between all of these different streams of ways you can make money, how much money do you make? That's the question you have to answer. So one job might pay you 10,000. The next one might pay you, this is Liberian dollars, by the way. The next one might pay you 5,000. And then your side hustle might give you 3,000. So then you're going to add all of those together and have your total income. So 10 plus 5, 15 plus 3. In this case, you have $18,000. That's going to be your total income. So that's the first step, is determining how much money you have, right? Now, the next step is then, or someone might say, excuse me, what if I don't make enough money? What if my expenses are just more than my income? Well, that's understandable. There are solutions for that if you're willing to adhere to those. The first one is, if you have more expenses than your income, is you need to prioritize your needs over your wants. And we're going to talk a bit more about what are needs and what are wants. So, and what that looks like is you understanding that you need to live within your means. Well, just because a house is a need, does not mean that you need to live in the most expensive house in your neighborhood, because you might want to prove a point to someone else. Just because food is a need does not mean you need to go to the most expensive restaurant to eat, right? So then that is now a want, because you want to go to this specific place instead of just eating food in general. So if you're in a position where you don't make enough money, just make sure that you're prioritizing your needs over your wants and living within your means. And then if you are doing all that already and it's still not enough, well, if you don't have enough money, you probably have a little bit of time or a lot of time. So then the question becomes, how can you convert that? How can you convert that excess time or extra time into something monetary? Well, you do this by having side hustles. And side hustles are basically things and trades that you can do to earn money, either using your skill, your time, or a combination of the two. And if you want to know how to really do this, we have a series on the budget box mentality, B2M, which is where I talk about how you can use these, what are the different ways we make money and how we can use those to make extra money, sometimes just for the fun of it, right? So now that we have identified our income, the question then becomes, what's next? Well, what's next is tracking your expenses, because budgeting is just one thing when it comes to income is just one thing when it comes to budgeting. So now you need to track your expenses. And the way you do that is you list all of your expenses and then you categorize them in two categories: essentials versus non-essentials. And your essentials are going to be your needs, things that you absolutely need to live, like food, transportation, rent, utilities like LEC. These are things that you need to live. Water, of course, those are your needs. So you have to budget to pay for those things. So when you list all of your expenses, you're going to then transfer some of those in that specific category, essentials. Your non-essentials are your wants, things that are nice to have, but are not a must-have. Now you have to be able to distinguish the two. I give you an example of something that could be seen as a need, but it's really a want, right? But there are also things that are just plain blank wants. And some of those are entertainment, money that you use to entertain yourself, to go to parties, to hang out with your friends. Those are all non-essentials. You do not need those to survive. So after you've listed all your expenses and you already did your income, you know how much you're making, then the next thing to do now is to set limits. And there's this topic that we're going to talk about. It's the 50-30-20 rule. 50-30-20. Remember that. So what that is pretty much saying you're going to set aside 50% of your income for your needs. 30% is going to be for your wants, which is very significant, by the way. So budgeting is not a bad thing. Budgeting is not going to drive you crazy. Budgeting is not going to make you unhappy, because you have 30% of your income that you can use on anything that you want to do to improve your well-being. So you should get excited about that. So we said the rule is what? The 50-30-20 rule. So if you add 50 plus 30 plus 20, that's 100%. So we're breaking down your income into pieces, into different parts. The 20% is going to be for savings or investments, for the rainy day, for maybe increasing your wealth. You put 20% of your total income aside and just save it, preferably in a bank somewhere where you can earn interest. We also talked about that in our previous series. Or you can put this into some other type of investments that can give you a return on your investment. Again, earning interest. So then that's how you set your limits. The next thing you got to remember is I've done all of this, right? In practice, I'm good. You've done the practical, I should say the theoretical side. In theory, you're good. In practice, what really matters is you're sticking to that budget. Sticking to your budget. That's really the biggest takeaway. It's the discipline, and that comes over time. Is if you say you have a certain amount of money for this, spend it on that. Do it consistently. Build that habit. That's what builds discipline. And also, if you say I'm only going to spend $10 on entertainment, 10 USD on entertainment per month, and you know you don't have any extra money, well, only spend 10 USD. Build the discipline. No one is saying that this is going to be easy. We didn't promise that, right? So the more you do the same thing over and over, the more it builds discipline, the better off you are. Because that's the only thing that separates people who are financially literate and not, is the discipline. Everyone can create a budget just for the fun of it. Everyone can do that. So don't take the most pride in creating that budget. Take the most pride in building your discipline, your ability to be resilient, to fight back when the urge is, oh, I need to spend my money. I need to go out with my friends and credit for myself. Don't do that. You're not a bank. Stop crediting. So remember, build the discipline. And other tips that I would like to share with you is avoid unnecessary debt. Part of the reason we budget, it's so that we don't have to go into debt, because a part of our budget does account for savings. Savings, a part of that would be for emergency, for rainy days. So avoid going into unnecessary debt, because most debts you have to pay back with interest, and that really can constrain your budget for a very long time. So avoid debt. Now there might be times that you just encounter a very unforeseen circumstance. For example, you know, you got into a car accident and you need to go to the hospital and the bill is really large, 20 times bigger than your savings. Well, you really don't have a lot of option in that case. So it might be okay then. But always try to see how you can get free money first, right? Like ask people to give you gifts before you take out a loan. Because most people might be understanding in that situation. So take advantage of those. But avoid unnecessary debt. And also, like I said, with building the discipline is creating some form of accountability. Because if we know that other people are watching, like our wives or husbands, or maybe a friend or family member, if we know that they know we have a budget that we have to stick by, we're probably going to be more likely to stick by it. So find an accountability partner and let that person be the one to check on you and see how well you're sticking to your budget. And then the takeaway from this is budgeting overall gives you control of your finances, not just now, but also your future, right? And doing this allows you to achieve your goals, your financial goals, your personal, your professional goals, because a lot of what we do needs money. So the homework for you today is to go home, try to remember those few steps, and create a budget for yourself. And if you would need any kind of help, um, in terms of determining if this is good, if this is a representation of what the standard should be, you can send that budget over to us. And I would personally gladly be willing to look at it and give you some feedback and help you get to where you want to be. But create a budget. Don't just listen and don't act. The biggest takeaway from all of these lessons is to learn and put it into practice. right? Now, that's all for this today's segment. Our next segment is going to be on investing. What and how do we invest this money that we've saved? This, ladies and gentlemen, has been Making Money Moves, Series 3, Lesson 1, where we're educating ourselves on practical ways we can be financially literate to make better decisions for ourselves and our families. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a great time, and I hope you're walking away with something to go and practice, to apply. Thank you. Happy holidays to you and your loved ones. God bless you. And of course, God bless our beautiful Mama Liberia. Take care.
Bosco baby, B to the O, S to the C O, straight out of China. I represent LIB. The song playing in the background is my latest single called Like It or Not. You can find me on social, especially YouTube at Bosco_LIB, and also on Instagram at Bosco_LIB, and also on Facebook at Bus Music. Right now, you're watching the 1847 show. You know it's about you and me and all things Liberian. So follow the 1847 show on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and also on formerly Twitter and now X. So let's go, 2024. See you.
Hello, my name is Baba, from the Girls of Destiny Crazy Organization, and owner at Janice's Snacks. You are watching the 1847 show. The 1847 show celebrates you, me, and all things Liberian. Follow the 1847 show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. The 1847 show, all things Liberian.